Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lemn Sissay, not as I was introduced on stage in Blackburn. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Mr. Lemn Sissay. Born in Billinge near Wigan, brought up in the Lilliputian villages of Lancashire. I lived in Manchester, and for the last 11 years, I've lived in London, where a pound is worth a penny. But is it home? Is it really? I've been searching for home throughout my life, which I will explain, but what is it? Home. What reminds you of home? Is it the taste of a particular food cooked by a particular person in a particular way? Is it the memory of home that's more powerful than the physical space? Is it as long as you're under my roof, you'll live under my rules? Is it elbows off the table and who left the stool? Is it one day you might understand, but for now you must do what I say whenever I say, not whatever I do? Is it a place to contradict a contract, an edict of love? Is it a place in which to race for food, a fight, a hug? Is it bad dad jokes? Is it not under my roof? Is it don't you dare and where you do? Is it arguments over monopoly? A monopoly over doubt? Is it feet rushing down the stairs, wanting to come in, wanting to go out? Is it watching the snow fall from the roof and the swallows return to the eaves? Is it the creeping sun against a back wall, a place to drown, a place to breathe? Is it somewhere to reject? Somewhere you have learned to hate for all its effect? Is it somewhere you return to? So let's return. What reminds you of home? Any car park? Half past.
Hot pot.
Hot pot. Really?
Real Lancashire hot pot.
Lancashire hot pot. I am the only black man who knows what you mean. Anybody else?
Lettuce and sugar sandwiches.
Lettuce and... Are you kidding me? You are not from the north. There's no northern. Firstly, lettuce. Every room with ice cream sandwiches. Or was that just my foster dad? Oh, everybody does this, Lem. Really? But nobody said London, did they? I mean, is this London? Is this my home? Give me a cheer if you live and work in London. Yeah! Give me a cheer if you were born in London. Because I want you to know, those who were born here, that those who cheered first time, they're stealing your jobs. I was born in Wigan and held in the care system for 18 years. When you're in care, the government is the legal parent of the child. Margaret Thatcher was my mother. Let's not talk about breastfeeding. Like the words meat pie at a football match, care home was an oxymoron. After 18 years as my legal parent, the then head of Wigan Social Services stated precisely that I should not be given a penny. So I was placed in an empty flat and left forever with no one. No mother, no father, no sisters, no brothers, no aunts, no uncles, no cousins, no grandparents, no great-grandparents, and no weird uncle either. So yeah, what is home was somewhere I started from, and like a friend who overstays their welcome, the questions started to really irritate me. What is home? Back in Lancashire, at 18, I realised I didn't know anybody who knew me for longer than a year. That no one from my past would call to see if I was okay. Could be because I didn't have a phone, but I had no photographs of my previous existence, no records, and no one to argue these facts with. There was nowhere to return to. And through this, I knew that at base, all family is a collection of memories argued over between one set of people over a lifetime. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Not talking to you. Not talking to you. But the argument is what seals the memory. And I didn't have that. But the one advantage of having no family, no place of family, was that in having nowhere to come back to and no one to miss, I could take full advantage of going forward. And after 18 years of being the only black in the village, I'd had enough. I didn't meet another black person until I was about 10. I didn't know one until I was 16. So the only reflection of myself was from the people around me. White people. My nickname was Chalky White.
Chalky! You're right, Chalky. Hey, he can take a joke, eh? He can take a joke, can Chalky?
When I just got to the point of saying, I've heard that joke before, the reply was, oh, got a chip on your shoulder, have you? Now, if I said to you, what do you call a deer with no eyes, and you said, I've heard that before, no idea, I wouldn't then reply, oh, got a chip on your shoulder, have you? It's only a joke. It wasn't a joke at all. It was a test. This is not your home. You're not one of us. A poem. Immigration, RSVP. The lemons you suck are from Spain. The orange you drink is from South Africa. Shoes you wear are made in Pakistan, and your oil is from Saudi Arabia. You import your petrol from the Gulf states. Your toys are made in Taiwan. Your coffee they send from Colombia, and your cars are driven from Japan. You've flooded yourself with foreign good, but foreigners, you tell me, are bad. You say you're afraid they will overrun you, but I'm afraid we already have. I had to leave the villages. I started noticing behaviour. People would say, you're not black. You're a human being. A human being. If a woman says to me, I'm a woman, I don't say to her, no, love. You're a human being. I was 18 when I went into a pub. It's the rites of passage of the Lancashire lad. The bridge, the stairway to adult heaven. Go, my son, to pub. And order beer and packet of cheese and onion. Crisps. Women drank lager, men drank bitter. It was the kind of town where guys had names like Tony. Steve-O. Jacko. Norman, bit of a divvy Norman, but he's all right, you know. Kind of place where men walk like they were pushing a wheelbarrow. What are you looking at? Huh? I walked into the pub and the entire place went silent. Absolute silence. I could hear the beer drip from the pump into a stunned beer glass. All heads turned to the source of intrusion. Then fully round and back again. Yeah, Sony, have a look at this! A shaft of light spilled through the room. Men with square shoulders and right-angled jaws moved aside, holding their women back. Don't look at him, love! As the whole scene split down the centre of the corridor, it was almost religious, like the Red Sea, the bar glinting in the distance. The barwoman stood, sweat pouring from her forehead, staring at me. I walked in slow motion towards her, and finally I arrived at the bar. Hello, my people. I have come. What I didn't notice were the beer glasses bouncing off the back of my afro. And when people realise that I'm an approachable kind of guy, about 10 women would sidle up to me and say, can I touch your hair? Can I touch your hair? A student would tunnel through with a massive spliff in his hand and say, excuse me, mate, have you got a light? Another student would tunnel his way through and say, have you got any Rizla? Have you got any Rizla? Have you got any Rizla? Then the one reggae record on the jukebox would burst in. A huddle of white women would sidle up to me, and one of them would nudge the other, who'd nudge the other, who'd nudge the other, who'd look me up and down and say, "Is it true then, I was? Is it true then, I was? Have you got any Rizla? Have you got a lie, mate? Got any Rizla? Is it true then, I was? Have you got a lie, mate? You're looking at my woman. Stop!" It was getting too much. So, after 18 years in the villages, it was time to find home in the city. I followed the winding yellow brick road. Let's not talk about why it was yellow. Through the Lancashire plain to Manchester, the Oz on the horizon. And Manchester made me. I'm made in Manchester. I stayed 15 years. It's from here that my first real book of poetry was published in 1988. It is here that my poems became landmarks. From a bet in a pub in 1994, I wrote a poem which the landlord painted 50 feet high on the corner of Dickinson and Wilmslow Road, and it became one of many landmark poems across the city. I'm tattooed into Manchester's mixed-race skin. It's here I became the poet that I knew I always was. Terry Christian is a Sony Gold Award-winning radio broadcaster. He was presenter of The Word Which Changed Television Forever. Now he is exactly where he wants to be, broadcasting weekly the sounds of the city, the sounds of home. I've known him since 1985. I asked him what made Manchester home to him.
I suppose, for me, I just grew up here, but it always felt... It was full of individuals, and also it had that kind of cohesiveness. Even though it's a big city, it was very tribal area by area, but there was a certain cohesiveness. So it felt a place, you felt kind of special, even if you could only be special within your own area. Everyone knew about you. You knew the kids who were good at football, the kids who were good at cricket, the ones who liked reading. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's little quirks, you kind of knew about each other.
If everyone knows everyone and you're part of a community, is it easier to make the connections?
I think in Manchester, the fact that people would know each other or know someone who knew someone who knew someone, you had those sort of tendrils going out. And I went to primary school and secondary school with John Marr, who was the drummer with the Buzzcocks. He was a friend of mine from like the age of 6. And then suddenly, age 16, he's leaving, my Catholic grammar school, to go on tour playing with the Clash at the Screen on the Green. He's 16. And to see that and to feel that accessibility and that think, well, I can do that, or at least I can try to do it. And, Manchester was always one of those places where you were admired for what you did or how good you were, what you excelled at. Nobody expected you to carry a lot of baggage with you. We didn't live in, it is an ugly city, it always was. So we didn't live in the prettiest place. We didn't live in a trendy place. Liverpool was always seen as a bit more kind of streetwise and cool than Manchester at one time. But there was something special about the people there, I always felt.
Do you remember, was there a time that I started to sort of lose my energy in Manchester?
I think what it is Manchester's quite a small place. And I don't think it was you losing your energy. I think it was people start to take you for granted. This is one of the issues that you get with a small place like Manchester, is there's very few outlets within the media. For you, in terms of poetry, what could you do in Manchester? Where were you going to get the opportunities? And once you've been around and you've got to a certain level in Manchester and you can't go any further, no matter how good or how much you'd improve, people would think, if he was any good, he'd have gone by now. I mean, I know it sounds stupid. I can kind of get away with that because I'm so embedded in Manchester, and I don't care if they say that.
What job offer, Terry? What job offer would it take to make you move to London?
Well, to be honest with you, I've never had a problem with moving to London. One of the reasons I didn't, I have moved to London, I have lived there. But I didn't need to be there all the time. I only needed to be there maybe 3-4 days of the week. So for me, I've lived other places and I could live anywhere in the world, but I'll always bring that bit of Manchester with me.
All the resources I made from poetry I used to track down my family. I found them in Seattle, Washington, New York, Addis Ababa, Banjul, Paris, Boston, Virginia, Dakar, not Wigan. Look, half the new family have never met each other. 3/4 of them won't talk to me. My father is dead and was married to someone else when I was conceived. And my mother married someone else later on who was politically jailed in Ethiopia. Their children were in international schools in Europe and never returned to their home country, nor has my mother. And there's me. I have now got, ladies and gentlemen, a fully dysfunctional family. Just like everybody else. But is what I found home? Manchester certainly saw me through the most tempestuous part of my journey in search of home. But the more I found out about my past, the more out of step I felt with my present, with Manchester. And it wouldn't feed me. If I was white, working class, half Irish, with a penchant for melancholy at an extremely early age, then fine. But I wasn't, and it wasn't, and that fluid anchor of home, disturbed, uprooted in the seabed. I don't know, right, if when in Africa, an English person can see another English person, it might have something to do with how many people are carrying their luggage, but as a rule, an Ethiopian can see an Ethiopian from 1,000 yards. It's in the shape of face, in the eyes, in the skin tone. Most people around the world have this kind of face recognition thing going on, even if it's subconscious. There were no Ethiopians in Manchester at the time. My entire education in what it was to be black was from the incredible Caribbean community of Manchester. They taught me everything I knew, everything I didn't. They're from the sand, from the sea, but it took me ages at the chicken shop to realise that Wayawan, it wasn't a name. It was a question. But this physical recognition thing and seeing it as a component of home became crucial to me. In finding my family, I had lost my sense of home in Manchester. I'd made my name but lost my footing. I knew I had to leave, but not without a poem. Belong. Have you seen the churches of Lalibela? Swam in the warm springs of Addis Ababa? Have you heard the reaching Nile of the Bible and the Quran? My Abyssinia. Have you heard whispering widow peaks of sand, seen the reeling rainbows as Victoria falls, felt the mists of the Simeon Mountains and the dust clouds of Harari's hyenas call? And did you see the gentle man taken, then imprisoned for 25 years, who walked out of chains, became president, and who faced down the world's fears? Did you see his example to the world? How he embraced his adversary, spoke of unassailable truth and reconciliation, then we flounder in war's anniversary. Hold me, while spirits of the past and rivers of blood run through me. All this past feeds this present and brings the truth into me. His story, your search, his journey, ours. Something rings true inside and strong. I stand atop Piccadilly Tower and sing, I belong here. I belong. I am the blackest man. The tongue twists, the skin dark. I moved next door to the whitest poet in John Cooper Clarke. I'm buried in the cemetery where Morrissey walked, in the earth from where grew stone roses. I am the seamstress for Manchester's dream coat. I designed the clothes for Moses. I am the PSV, the sanctuary, the kitchen. I am the Reno's red rhythm, the bull rings blues. I am the dread in its red, and for all that is said wherever I go, I am you. I grew up, me, in the villages of Lancashire, and you stood upon my horizon since birth. The reason I came to Manchester is because it's the greatest place on earth. I bring my past, I bring my future, I bring my rights, and I bring my wrong. I stand atop the hacienda, it means house, and sing, I belong here. I belong. So I moved to London. I moved for love, not money. I moved to live with someone and to be close to the people who look like me. We bought an apartment in Clapton, or as it was then known, Murder Mile. You're not really supposed to say you love London, especially if you're from the north, but I do. I've been here 11 years now, and it's beautiful. I love that it's a 24-hour city. Everything you need's in London, whenever you need it. Need to get mugged by a complete stranger? London is the place. In the north, you know the people who mug you. You can catch up on local news with them. See? I've started calling it the North, as if there are no cities beyond Watford, as if it's just one big amorphous slug, gently feeding upon the sweet apple of London. Jude Kelly at OBE is artistic director of Southbank Centre. She made the journey from the north to the south. Southbank Centre is the largest arts complex in Europe. It lies like a chaise longue on the south bank of the Thames. I was artist in residence there for 6 wonderful years. An artist in residence makes a kind of home in a space. That's why it's called a residency. I'm now associate artist. Anyway, I asked Jude what made her invite me to make myself at home.
Well, I invited you, Lemn, to become an artist in residence because of the passion and commitment and vigour and courage you have about the way you work with your own poetry, the fact that you push yourself beyond your own comfort zone always. And that's a very great symbol for the way people need to just live their life as well as make art. But also I know because you've had big highs and lows in your own life and your own moods, you're very empathetic and intuitive about other people who might feel left out or excluded or alone. And I've found it incredibly helpful to have you as a sort of emotional detective, tracking who's not being seen and bring them into the light. I came to London the first time to work when I was 26. I started the Battersea Art Centre. And I was so shocked to see at that time that the south side of the river was so much poorer than the north side of the river and less resources in every single way. And I identified with it because it made me think about the regions. It made me think about Liverpool, where I'm from. In fact, actually, one of the great virtues of being a Liverpudlian is that famous joke that if you say to a Liverpudlian, what's the second city? Birmingham people will say Birmingham, Manchester people will say Manchester, Liverpool people will say London.
So yeah, audience, what made you come to London?
For love.
For love?
Yeah.
Oh. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Are you still...
Broken up now.
Broken up, yeah. That's great. Yes?
I came back to London to be with family.
Oh, be with a family. Oh, that's lovely. That's really EastEnders. But no, excuse me. That's a beautiful thing. Yes, there's one there. It's catching.
To get away from family.
To get away... The two polarities there, perfectly sat next to it. You're not related, are you? Okay, just checking. For both of you, it could have worked that way. Yes, any more?
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
All right. And so, did you get those things? Yeah? Fantastic. I want to be in your London. It's not one place, is it? It's not. It's Brixton, Sydenham, Whetstone, Twickenham, Ickenham, Mitcham, Beckenham, Richmond, Ilford, Catford, Stamford, Stratford, Plumstead, Hampstead, Chipstead, Wanstead, Clapton, Clapham, Hackney, Balham, Ilford, Brentford, Bethnal, Wentworth, Hackney, Battersea, Bermondsey, Chelsea, Hyde Park, Queen's Park, Rains Park, Green Park, Waltham, Eltham, Sefton, Feltham, Malden, Thornton, Dagenham, Morden, Park Lane, Brick Lane, Green Lanes, Rayners Lane, Chigwell, Brockwell, Rockwell, Stockwell, Wandsworth, Wentworth, Romford, Brentford, Mornington Crescent. In 10 years, Clapton, where we lived, became, as The Guardian put it, the vanguard of London's latest housing boom, the front line of inner London gentrification. Once there were young men with big dogs, and now there are big men with small dogs. The kind you can carry in pita bread. Once it was small boys on mountain bikes, now it's big men on Bromptons. And vintage shops, there's something questionable about vintage as a black man. I knew it when I went to a vintage party in Clapton and I was given a loincloth. some rather big ankle bracelets, and asked to serve the tea in a Mississippi accent. God, what a place. What an incredible, vibrant, beautiful, wild, fantastic place London is. But why do I love it? Why do I feel like it's home? It's because London is full to bursting with immigrants. It's like being in the middle of a force of nature. London embraces immigration because it's based on immigration. In that way, it's probably the most truthful city in Britain. Without immigration, we would all be an inbred bunch of goons. We emigrate first from the womb into the open air, from teenagers into adults, from single to married, from home to street to park to town to city and onwards and outwards like birds. Falling in love is immigration of the heart. And so I keep it simple, I keep it one day at a time, and I keep coming back to the clear light of each new day. I can't compare my idea of home with anyone else's idea of home. That's how you lose home in the first place. Each is fundamentally unique. We're like birds. Home is where we stay between our emigrations. London is home. Manchester is home. Johannesburg is home. New York is home. Lancashire is home, but not Wigan. And most importantly, all that search for the past has led me to simply let go of it, because here, this present moment is home. The collation of all your memories is now. Do me a favour. Let your feet lift off the ground and let yourself float upwards far enough to see London. That's home. Go further up through the atmosphere. Look down at the earth. That's home. Go further into the galaxy. Look until the earth is just a speck, the dust of an explosion or a comet with millions of others. That's home. What you will find most of all is that home is not one fixed point you return to. It's you looking at it. That's it. Thank you.
Lemn Sissay's Homecoming was written and performed by Lemn Sissay. The producer was Ed Morrish.